Well, you know my best, now let's look at the worst. These are my least favourite kaiju in the Godzilla franchise. Number 10. Space Godzilla. Hitting off with some controversy right out of the gate. Yeah, I know, I'm not the biggest fan of Space Godzilla, and I think it's because I kind of see him as overrated. While he does have an impressive range of energy attacks, it's more the suit design meant it was near impossible for the actor inside to move. And it made Space Godzilla look like he has these really stubby arms that he can barely move with. Speaking of designs, out of all the other concept designs that were given for Space Godzilla, that they considered this one for the final design comes off as really lazy. Some of the other designs looked really imaginative and different, and something that didn't just look like Godzilla with extra spikes. And this one is basically just Godzilla with some shoulder pads. It's basically the Godzilla from the Super Nintendo game. The other thing I'm not a big fan of Space Godzilla wise is how recently he's been made out to be Godzilla's arch nemesis. But when you look at some of the more recent comic books and games, they've been trying to make Space Godzilla out to be this almighty, godlike, powerful arch nemesis of Godzilla, when we've had Ghidorah to do that for over 50 years, and, well, you know, Ghidorah does it better. Number 9. Titanosaurus. Well, less controversial yet, I'm not a big fan of this guy. For most of the same reasons I'm not a big fan of Space Godzilla. This was the last Showa monster from the Showa era of Godzilla movies. And well, it's just a more fishy looking Godzilla with one of the worst roars in the entire franchise. But it does have one good moment where it lifts Godzilla up by the jaw, but really other than that, Titanosaurus really spends the whole movie getting his ass kicked. Yes, he can make wind with his tail, but we've seen that before from other kaiju monsters. So really, I'm not really a big fan of him. I don't hate him, he's just not really that interesting. And really, it's not a monster I ever see coming back to the franchise anytime soon. Number 8. Molegor. Okay, so I really like the Molegor's design in the Heisei era. It looks like something straight out of Power Rangers, but what gets me is this was supposed to be the upgrade from Mechagodzilla 2 in the last movie. And let's not remind Mechagodzilla damn near killed Godzilla in the last movie. And this is the upgrade from Mechagodzilla 2, and well, it's just worse in every way. It's slower, less maneuverable, the weapons are weaker, it seems to be made out of paper because it can't take any hit at all, and breaks from the slightest contact with another monster. Honestly, probably little Godzilla could damage this thing. It really looks like one of those robots, like a robot that you would see in Series 4 Robot Wars, like one of those joke entries that won't really do very well and will just fall over, and that's what Molegor basically does in its whole movie. While the idea and design is pretty awesome, what it does in its movie is basically get destroyed every time it gets on screen and hardly puts much of a fight. This is probably one of the worst upgrades that G-Force ever gave to one of their robots. Considering they went from Mechagodzilla 2 that could take Godzilla's atomic breath and not even be damaged, to this which gets one hit from Space Godzilla's beam and is instantly taken out of the fight, really makes it come off as, well, a bit weak. Number 7. Varon. And that sums up Varon's contribution to the Godzilla franchise, which is a real shame because this is why Varon's on the list, because of what could have been. Varon has been slated to be on 4 other Godzilla movies, I think even 5, and only ever got 1 appearance. Which, considering that this was the appearance that it got, just comes off as really bad. So that's the reason why Varon's on this list of basically what could have been. Number 6. Kumonga and Kamacuras. Well, I don't actually mind these two. I put them both together on the same list because I have the same problems with them. Basically, they're just giant bug puppets, and there's not really much they could do with them in any of their movies because, well, they're puppets. Kamacuras is so weak, 3 of them can't even damage or scratch Godzilla. They just get the shit kicked out of them in one fight. Every time they appear, they get their asses kicked worse than Anguirus. And the fight with Kumonga isn't really interesting because, well, there's not much that happens. Just Kumonga sprays his web, he gets tall, he plays dead, and that's really it. Not much really happens in the Son of Godzilla fight, and It's even worse in Final Wars. I mean, Killmonger just fires somewhere, jumps about a bit, and then gets thrown around. While as Kamakura's, well, I do really like the flying sound they gave him in Final Wars and the invisibility ability. He basically gets one hit KO'd. But I will admit, I do like how Killmonger, in the way that they couldn't do much with the puppet, have made him come off as more of a smart kaiju. Playing dead, acting, hiding, ambushing and all that sort of stuff. He does come off as one of the more intelligent kaiju. But other than that, they're basically just two giant bugs. Number 5, Hedorah. So this is most likely my most controversial pick, but yeah, I don't like Hedorah, mostly because it scared me as a child. Yes, this movie scared me when I was a kid. It was mostly the scene where Hedorah flew around killing people. It kind of scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. Mostly because Hedorah was turning people into skeletons and bones, and it was really disturbing. Watching the movie back nowadays, it's just a really, really, really weird movie and not really that scary in the slightest. But one thing that also doesn't get me about Hedorah is how he's made out to be one of the strongest kaijus that Godzilla's ever faced when it comes to the wiki, but rewatching its fight in Godzilla vs. Hedorah, I would say it's one of the weakest monsters that Godzilla's fought. It has 3 fights with Godzilla and loses pretty much all of them. And in the final fight, Hedorah doesn't really put up much of a fight. Yes, it has these acid attacks, but apart from that, it doesn't really do much to Godzilla and just spends the whole time getting its ass kicked. So I don't get on the Godzilla forums and the wikis how this is made to be one of the top tier, strongest ever monsters to ever appear in a Godzilla movie, when it's really, on looking back, it's really not. I don't get it. I really don't get it with Hedorah, and the fact he was so easily defeated in Final Wars in a basically 1-minute cameo, and that really pissed people off, I don't really get it. Hedorah's always been weak to me. I don't get how so many people think it's so strong. Number 4, Zilla. What, you guys were expecting this to be number 1? Well, yes, I do hate Zilla and its movie called Godzilla. I do like its design, it's just a shit Godzilla design. I mean, it's amazing how they got everything wrong with Godzilla in his own movie. He runs away from the military, he doesn't really have atomic breath, he just has flammable breath or something like that. Hell, they rarely use the actual roar that Godzilla has, going for something that sounds more like an elephant. And let's not get into the Jurassic Park riff-off stuff that they did with Godzilla's babies. Anyway, the simple fact that Godzilla was taken down by fucking missiles just is the ultimate of not getting it about the Godzilla character. Roland Emmerich just wanted to make another masturbation over the American flag movie first, then he actually wanted to make a Godzilla movie. And yes, I know Toho approved this Godzilla design, but let's not hold Toho up on this pedestal of being an almighty god that can't do anything wrong. I mean, let's not forget that this is the Toho that gave us Godzilla's Revenge. And actually, I'm starting to like what they're doing with Zilla nowadays and making a name for itself. I really like its appearance in Godzilla Rulers of the Earth, and the Godzilla cartoon that was a spin-off of the movie was actually alright, so Zilla isn't 100% awful in every way. Number 3, Ebra. Talk about an uninteresting monster. Ebra has no special powers, no amazing moments, it's just a big lobster. Oh, how threatening. Godzilla has fought godlike butterflies, outer space 3-headed dragons, of complete and utter annihilation and death, but no, it's a big lobster that's going to be his downfall. How Ebra became the main threat of a Godzilla movie is beyond me. The fact that he is one of the weakest monsters and shouldn't have been, really should have just been a side monster that Godzilla fights halfway through a movie. I mean, Godzilla has the atomic breath ability and is damn near indestructible, and Ebra can splash. Woo! The power of Ebra. And also, Ebra is the only Godzilla kaiju to be beaten by humans on foot. I mean, yes, they were mutant alien hybrids, but holy hell, the fact that normal on-foot soldiers with guns can take down this monster pretty much shows how weak it is. Oh, and the bird thing that's also in that movie sucks too. Number 2, Gabbar. What can I say about this green lumpy piece of shit that hasn't already been said before? This is by far and away the weakest opponent ever in a Godzilla fight. And it's technically non-canon. Gabbar is a weak, tailless green lumpy piece of shit that can't fight for shit. And yes, he does have a unique ability with his shock hands, but it's a really stupid power if you think about it, because it's not a beam attack. Gabbar has to get up close to the target for it to be effective, so he's most likely going to get his ass kicked before he can even touch them. Gabbar is so hated, he hasn't even appeared in any other Godzilla medium outside of its one movie appearance. He hasn't appeared in a video game, a comic, nothing. He is that hated. And I was going to put him at number 1, but then, well, something happened. Number 1, Godzilla's son, Manila. Yes, I hate this little shit as much as the next guy. But I wasn't going to make him number 1 until a recent poll came out of a Godzilla magazine from Japan that ranked the top 10 favourite monsters from the Godzilla franchise. And Manila came 4th, beating Destroyer, Rodan and Anguirus. Why? How is this the 4th most popular kaiju in Japan? It can't be. I mean, I know the Japanese like cute things, but he's not cute. He looks like something that got beaten up. He looks like a boxer that's lost more fights than he should. He's the Scrappy Doo of the Godzilla franchise. Annoying, useless, and in a way, he shouldn't have been there in the first point. Really, if you want to find the moment where the Godzilla franchise stopped being taken seriously and started going for more kid-like friendly movies, point to Manila, because that's the moment when things went to shit. What also gets me is this is supposed to be the son of Godzilla. He's supposed to be the successor to the King of the Monsters, and he's nothing more than useless. They did a much better job of Godzilla's son in the Heisei era, and I would understand him being the successor to the King of the Monsters, but Manila? Dear God, he would lose to Hedorah when he was fully grown. Goddamn Manila, I fucking hate this little shit. And that was my list of the top 10 least favourite kaiju in the Godzilla franchise. Oh boy, Christ. Well, these are some shit ones, aren't they? Anyway, tell me what you think in the comment below, and tell me your own lists in the comments below as well. And I'm Alex the Hunted, and I will see you guys next time.